I watched The Devil Wears Prada 2 a few weeks ago, and when the credits rolled, I felt a rush. I wanted more. I wanted her life. I wanted the creative work Andy was doing, the financial freedom she was feeling, the being exactly where you want to be because you love it. But what I realized is that almost immediately after the movie and all these thoughts it was provoking, I felt ashamed of wanting more. And I sat with that shame for a few days and I thought, why? Why am I ashamed of simply wanting more and wanting better? And that is what this episode is about. So, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get In, You Are Driving. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for being here. I am filming today in my living room because I need AC. My last episode, I filmed it in my room. It's very, very hot this week where I'm at, like 100 degrees outside right now, hot. So we needed the AC rolling. Anyways, so I went to go see the movie with my friends. I think I saw it the week it came out here in Spain. And I just felt this rush of wanting more. And I actually didn't really care much about Andy's life. I liked and was more fascinated by Miranda's life. So I know you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, you're so terrible. And maybe I am. Um, but what I really was intrigued by with her life was how she was doing great creative work. Again, she had financial freedom. And it's something that I have very much so been wanting for myself, in the last couple of years with how all this stuff about personal branding, content creation, like there's just so many unique opportunities to do well and be financially free. Anyways, the movie just made me feel inspired because obviously they're in New York City, they're living really well. I mean, who doesn't want to have nice things and have a nice life, right? But again, this shame really, really hit me because when I went to eat after, with my friends, we were talking about it. And of course, they're like, wow, but Miranda's a bitch and she takes advantage of people and she's awful. And we can't be like sold this lie that money is everything. And, there was truth to that. But I also really wanted to go deeper into why I felt shame because I feel like that is a very particular emotion. It was like shame for wanting more. Because again, it's not that I wanted to be Miranda from a character point of view, but I definitely admired her from who she was in the workspace point of view. So, what I realized after watching the movie, after it's been a few days and I'm trying to think about why it's impacted me so much, is that Andy is the lie. She really annoyed me throughout this movie. I really couldn't stand her. And Andy is everyone performing that they don't want more, but they actually do want more. And we as a culture have coded this as virtuous. A lot of times in the movie, Andy says the line, this is everything that is wrong with society. And it's usually when it's like a certain group of people or luxury or whatnot. But again, she's the perfect example of the person that actually wants more, but is pretending she doesn't because, well, she borrowed those clothes from the magazine to go to the event. Um, she ends up buying a super expensive apartment in the city. She has the privilege of freezing her eggs. And she's planning on writing an expose book on Miranda that will in turn make her a lot of money. Um, so her words say one thing, right? Because she says this line a lot in the movie. This is everything that is wrong with society. But her behavior says another. And I wrote an essay on this a while back about how I think behavior is the most important language to learn because at the end of the day, especially when it comes to people, behavior is much clearer than words. And you don't just see this reflected in Andy, right? But she's a mirror for a lot of people that you meet anywhere in society, right? That we treat being poor and not wanting more as like virtuous. But when you look at literally everyone's behavior, especially everyone's behavior on social media, I don't see you posting about living in a tiny bedroom in New York, right? Like people post about their Ibiza trip, maybe how they went first class, like, oh, I'm at this bar in Porto. I'm gonna take an aesthetic picture of my drink, right? Like, when you think about what people are portraying, we're all portraying and we all like luxury, money, nice things, freedom, right? Like, I think anybody would be a liar if they said they don't want more and they don't wanna live a life full of nice things and full of good people and all these things. But then we also have this very strong rhetoric of people with money are evil, people with money are bad, money is bad. And it got me thinking a lot about how even I, when I started digging into like the shame of why I was feeling this way, is because I've created this like narrative in my head that, oh yeah, true, someone with money, they're bad, right? And when you think about stories and movies, who usually ends up being the bad guy? The person with money. So again, Andy is a reflection of our society because again, her words say one thing, but her behavior says another. And anybody that's rudely commented on the fact that, let's say, Elon Musk is now a trillionaire, would they switch with Elon Musk if they could? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, for the most part, people would, right? So again, I think the people loudest about not caring about money are the ones who care about it the most. And I think we, again, have made wanting more into like a moral failure. But I'm starting to realize that this is a lie. Just because you have money doesn't mean you now are not a good person. Also, you can have money and be a bad person, whatnot. And I remember something that really stuck out to me as I was feeling a lot of shame around this topic, confusion, whatnot, was I remember Layla Hormozy saying she kind of had this same outlook, like, oh, people who have money, they're awful. And she's like, I have a lot of money now and I still want to be a great person and I want to contribute to the world and I want to do better. So again, I think a lot of wanting more doesn't have to come from this evil place. All right. So I want to get into a little bit of why I came out of the movie admiring Miranda. And what I like about Miranda is that she really cares about excellence. Um, and maybe sometimes she's just the only brutally honest one in the room. And of course, she could go about that better. But if you really think about her caring about excellence, go back to the cerulean sweater scene from the first movie where they're like, which blue? And then Andy like giggles, right? And then Miranda's like, what's so funny? Like, why are you giggling? And then basically, Andy's obviously giggling because she thinks this is so pathetic and shallow. It's a color. She's so above this. She wants to be a journalist. This color doesn't mean anything, right? But the way Miranda reacts to and goes into like that story of why Andy ended up with this ugly, ooh, I stained my table. Why Andy ended up with this ugly ass cerulean blue color is actually very deep and not just as simple as like this pathetic giggle. And she basically explains the entire ecosystem of fashion, the machinery of culture, why details matter. And it really shows you that she's not just a consumer of fashion, but she understands it and culture at a very elite level. And that essentially what it's communicating is power and identity and art mixed with commerce. Like if you go back and you break down what she says, that's what she's saying. And that's why Andy's kind of left like, oh, whoops. Maybe it's not funny. And I think because she can see this very clearly. Again, she maybe doesn't have the best way of going about it. It shows that she is a person of excellence, and it helps you also understand why she's so demanding. Because to her, details mean something. The fact that this was a cerulean blue, she knew that. Who the frick knows? I like fashion as well. Haven't gone down that whole rabbit hole. And I think what I really admired in her wasn't the this cold stone bitch facade that she doesn't care about anything, because that's just not true. And anyone that's putting that facade up is just lying to themselves. But anyways, but it's again a person that really seems to understand detail and excellence. And I felt reflected in her because I really care about my craft and I have a very strong hunger to be competent. And right now, that is manifesting through this podcast, that is manifesting through my writing, which is the sharing of my ideas, the sharing of my internal world. And, even though I'm still just doing this because it's something that I enjoy, because I want to create, I am very particular about uh, the headlines, why I'm writing a certain piece, what it brings out to me, what these words mean, how, if I ever grow an audience, I feel like even the way I'm speaking, I'm trying to use my words and be very like responsible with them. Like I really care about excellence in creation and craft. So yeah, I saw myself in her and I think that's why I left the movie theater like wow. Like, it also wasn't as simple as wanting a bunch of materialistic things. It was, wow, she really knows her craft, right? And the thing is, after I moved past the shame of, am I terrible for wanting more? I really reframed it and I said, no. Me wanting to be competent, wanting to give, wanting to share my ideas, this is a hunger. And this hunger is ancient. I mean, people have been creating since the beginning. And I realized that I wrote a piece about this that I will share. I realized that there's a beast inside of me and like a Mother Teresa inside of me, and the beast inside of me that's more reflective of Miranda. It wasn't that I wanted to like tear people down and make people feel bad, but I think it's like the part of me that wanted to be like really good at what I was doing, really give it my all. And I think that again, this is ancient. And I know where my brain went back to was a lot of the people in the Renaissance. I mean, you can look back at so many people in history and see this voraciousness to give their best, to create, to share, to uh, expose what is inside of them and share with the outside world. And I thought of like Da Vinci, and from what I understand, he wasn't chasing money, he was consumed by beauty, discovery, mastery. And I think that the modern ambitious person, I'm not going to say every single one, I'm not going to sit here and tell you we're not motivated by money. No, we're all motivated by money. But I think that the modern ambition person, yeah, they want money and status. But I think if we really look underneath that behavior, the desire is ancient and it's a desire to matter, to create, to leave evidence that you were here, you existed, that you were a human and that you experienced something. I really think if we get to the bottom of what we're feeling, at least what I came to, what I concluded after thinking about this shame, which really was the superficial emotion, it was that. It was, I have the desire to matter, to create something, to leave something behind. And I think this starts as wanting more, but really it's the desire to contribute to this world that only something you can contribute. So I am at a point in my life where I'm still quite young. I'm still building. To be honest, I'm still figuring out what it is I like, what I don't like. I'm very happy with the decisions that I've made about my life, and I've really stuck with my guns on making decisions that feel aligned with my values. But I don't have anything to show for what I've done yet. Like, I have my podcast, I have my writing. Um, I'm doing them solely out of creation. Of course, I would love for them to go somewhere one day, but that's not necessarily something that's up for me. Or, sorry, that's not necessarily something that's up for me to decide. And I think why I've just been craving to create and want more and all these things is because I don't have anything to show for it yet. And I want to like somehow leave my mark on the world, you could say, but a lot of times I feel like I get ahead of myself and we get ahead of ourselves. And I think what I'm realizing is I want to leave a mark on my community and the people around me and in my sphere. I don't think there's anything wrong with having an objective for this to be global, but I also think that we all have a sphere of influence, and the best place to focus is on those around us. And yes, we do live in a digital world, and I think that's really cool. But there's still something very human about, being physical with people. This is why when it comes to time with my friends, I'm very sacred about it. This is why I like to go to events in my city and be involved in my city because it's still where I'm at. So, like I said, I don't have anything to show for it yet. I really don't. But I want to have something. And I'm working really hard towards what I value. Um, I think cognitively, I know money won't make me happy. And there's so many stories, right, about all these people that have money and they're not happy with all the money. And I believe them, but I also think that you have to live these things for yourself and see what that means to you. Part of being a human and telling your story is telling your story from your lived experience. And I really mean it when I say I genuinely believe people who say money isn't fulfilling. But also, I believe in financial freedom and, yeah, not having to be stressed about groceries and if you have to go to the doctor. Like, to me, these things are just like fundamental. And sometimes I wonder if wisdom about what you want and are after goes out the window until you've lived it yourself. Because I do believe those people, but I'm also like, yeah, but I want to know what it feels like to have a lot of money in my bank account. And I will admit that. I am not going to sit here and lie to you because again, I think it goes out the window until you've lived it. And I do think that I agree with the rhetoric of your 20s needs to be a building time and your 30s is more having more money, probably having a family and stuff like that, which is why I have dedicated like a lot of my time to building what I want. And I think right now my biggest goal is I know what I want out of life. I know what I want it to look like. And now I'm just trying to make sure every day I'm moving the needle in that direction. Um, so I have thought a lot though about not getting too caught up in the money part, right? Because I do believe these people. But I think that when I ask myself sincerely, Maria, why do you care about this podcast? Why do you care about your writing? Why do you like creating so much? And where I have like an honest conversation of myself about why am I doing this? Because sometimes I do get bothered of like, Maria, this should be deeper than you're doing it because you want money. But what I've done is I've watched my behavior over the last 3 years, and if I look at my behavior, I see somebody that wants it because they can't not do it. And when I think about creation, craft, taking it back to Miranda, being good at something, I think the question that really matters behind the why of you doing things is, are you doing it for your own gratification or because you literally cannot not do it? And when I really get honest with myself, yeah, of course, you have to make money to survive and you need it. But I think the real motivator behind why we do things should be because I want to, because I want to create, because I want to contribute, because I want to give value. Because I feel like if that isn't the ultimate intention, you're going to probably struggle, you're going to burn out. And even if you have built, I don't know, some $15 million business, if you actually don't care about it, the business is going to end up failing. So, when I have these days where I'm like, I wish I was where I wanted to be, and maybe none of this matters. Again, I go back to that question of, are you doing it for your own gratification or are you doing it because you literally can't do it? And from what I've seen, I'm doing it because I literally cannot do it. Like, nobody has a gun to my head to film this podcast. Nobody has a gun to my head to write essays. Like, I've written almost 100 essays on Substack in a year. And I've done it because I love it, because I genuinely have all these ideas and it almost makes me feel physically ill if I can't get those ideas out, make sense of them, and share them. Like, I just have to. Um, so yeah, if you cannot not do it, I think that's a really good indicator of where your heart really is. Because again, while I can admire Miranda from a professional point of view, and even, human in the sense of she really knows what she's doing, I don't admire repressing emotions. I don't admire taking advantage of people to get to the top. No, I don't think that's what I want to be doing. But I thought about and I wrote in my essay where all my podcast episodes come from my essays. And this essay is already published. And it's about how you and me are the devil, not just Miranda Priestly. Is that, I said that a lot of the energy you see in Miranda is this beast energy. And I said that we all have a beast inside of us, the beast that wants more, the beast that's desperate for money. And that's very real. And I'm not going to deny that I don't want a bunch of money. But I think with every other thing that I've talked about, with creating, why it matters, wanting to share something, that's the Mother Teresa in all of us. So there's the beast and there's the Mother Teresa. Because again, from my own behavior, I've also realized I really am doing this because I like it, because I want to, because I want to contribute to the world in a positive way and in a small way that only I can. And that's genuinely coming from a good place. Back to the Layla Hormozy comment. She's like, I have a bunch of money now, but I still want to contribute and give. So maybe if you're like me and you want more, there's a beast in you that wants more. And there's ugliness in that too, right? That if we only live out that side, we can become like Miranda, where we take advantage of people, right? Where we're ugly, where we're repressing our emotions. But I think if we counter that with Mother Teresa, I think that's something. So, again, I see them both very vividly within me, and both are real. And I think you have to choose which one you're going to allow to tap into at certain times, which one you're not, which one of you is like the dominant force. But they're both there. And I think admitting that is just honest and healthy. So I want to move it back to you guys. And I want to talk about how I think true shame about wanting more only comes when you're willing to hurt others to get there, right? And if that's not you, the shame doesn't belong to you, right? Like, I think most people inherently want to do right, want to do good. And again, wanting more isn't this evil desire. So I had to realize, Maria, get rid of this shame, because even though the beast in you is real, you're not willing to tear someone down to get it, right? You're not willing to manipulate all these things. I also think something we need to think about too is why we have this image that rich people are evil. Again, I think this is Disney. I think this is stories. If you've also been carrying this belief, I would ask you to think about it and challenge it. I'm still sitting and thinking about it a lot, and it's really interesting. And then what I realized thinking about this movie so much was you can have Miranda's hunger without having her ending, right? I still think at the end of the day she had a sad ending. But also this depends on what you value. If you value, oh, but she kept her job for as long as she could, people think she's a badass bitch. Okay, that's what you value. I think at the end of the day, what I've realized throughout all of this is I really value people and I really value relationships. And lately, I've really been discovering how much I just value moving through the world in an honest way. So, yeah, again, you can have her hunger without having her ending. And I think the difference between the devil and the Mother Teresa and the calling of all this is don't be now I'm not even sure if I'm making sense, but don't be Andy. Andy's really problematic because at the end of the day, Andy is lying to herself. Miranda is as well, but I still think she's moving through the world in a more positive way. And if there's something that I'm just never gonna hop on the train of with Andy is acting like she's a part of the club, but she's really not a part of the club. So, one question to sit with this week, if any of this resonated with you, is are you performing not wanting more, or do you actually not want it? Because I would argue that a lot of people are just performing that. Because somewhere along the way in this Western culture of ours, we learned that being poor is virtuous, and being poor means you're good, and being rich means you're bad. So, yeah, just be really honest with yourself. Again, at the end of the day, this movie is just a reflection of our culture at wide, and even deeper than that, of you and me. That's why I love art. Art is pattern recognition, and really good art is a mirror back to you. So yeah, be honest with yourself. I know that when I was honest with myself, I realized, okay, there's a beast inside of me, but there's also a Mother Teresa who really does want to leave the world in a better place. And that's not a devil. Like, that's the whole freaking point. We are all such a unique amalgamation of our beliefs, even of our wounds, where we grew up, our parents, our experiences. We really all do have something to share, and I very much so believe that. So, guys, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I hope this episode made sense. I hope you enjoyed it. And I know I enjoyed filming in the AC, but catch you later.